The impact that this rocket is going to have on the world, I don't think most people can really comprehend the change it's going to have.
The sound of progress, the rivet guns, and the sledgehammers.
Starship Flight 12 is not just another launch. It is the debut of a machine that, if it works as designed, will be the most capable rocket ever operated by human beings. It carries the hopes of NASA's lunar ambitions, the practicality of SpaceX's Starlink mega constellation, and somewhere in the background, Elon Musk's increasingly delayed but stubbornly persistent dream of sending humans to Mars. This is the kind of moment you'll tell people you watched live, whether it's a triumph or a very dramatic learning experience over international waters. This is Starship Flight 12, and before you dismiss this as just another rocket launch that may or may not blow up spectacularly over the ocean, stick around, because this one is genuinely different. This is not an upgrade. This is not a patch. This is a clean sheet, top to bottom redesign of the most powerful rocket in human history, and the stakes couldn't be higher. This is everything you need to know about Starship Flight 12 before it launches. A quick recap. For the uninitiated, here's the SpaceX Starship saga in 60 seconds. Flight 1, Starship leaves the pad and also takes most of the pad with it. Elon calls it exciting. The FAA calls it an investigation. Flights 2 through 5, we go from rapid unscheduled disassembly, which is SpaceX's adorable way of saying explosion, to actually catching a booster out of the sky with giant robot arms, which sounds fake, but is in fact real. Flight 11 was genuinely historic. SpaceX nailed a booster catch again, confidence was high, the internet had a meltdown of the good kind. Everyone went home happy, and then SpaceX said, cool, now let's throw all of that away and build something completely new. That something is what I am here to talk about today. Meet the version 3. The vehicle targeting May 12th is officially called Starship version 3 Block 3, or as I like to call it, the one that changes everything, assuming it doesn't also change the color of the sky over Boca Chica. So what actually changed? Let's start with the obvious. It's taller. The full V3 stack, that's booster 19 paired with ship 39, stands 408 feet tall. That's roughly 4 feet taller than the previous version, which on a 400-foot rocket is basically the equivalent of putting on elevator shoes. But every inch matters when you're trying to escape Earth's gravity. More importantly, those taller tanks mean more propellant, and more propellant means more performance. Specifically, SpaceX claims version 3 can carry over 100 metric tons to low Earth orbit in reusable configuration. The version 2 that flew through Flight 11, around 35 metric tons, so we're talking nearly triple the payload capacity. To put that in perspective, Saturn V, humanity's previous greatest achievement in rocketry, the rocket that sent humans to the moon, the rocket that people still reference to explain the scale of SpaceX's ambition, could carry about 130 metric tons to low Earth orbit. And that Saturn V was single use, no catching it out of the sky with robot arms. Version 3, Starship, is not quite there yet in practice, but the trajectory is clear. SpaceX is sprinting towards something the world has genuinely never seen. Oh, and it's launching from a brand new pad. Orbital Launch Pad 2, or OLP2, is getting its debut on Flight 12. That means this will also be a first flight test for the launch infrastructure itself. The Raptor 3 engine, alien tech and human rockets. Now let's talk about the reason this rocket can do any of this. The Raptor 3 engine. The Raptor engine is SpaceX's pride and joy, a full flow stage combustion engine running on liquid methane and liquid oxygen. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most complex and most powerful rocket engines ever built. And with each generation, SpaceX has done something remarkable, made it more powerful and simpler at the same time. Which is like if you upgraded your phone's battery life, processing speed, and made it thinner. Engineers aren't supposed to be able to do all three. SpaceX apparently didn't get that memo. Raptor 1, 185 metric tons force of thrust. Engine mass, 2,080 kilograms. Raptor 2, 230 metric tons force. Engine mass, 1,630 kilograms. Raptor 3, 280 metric tons force. Engine mass, 1,525 kilograms. More thrust, less weight, 21% more powerful than Raptor 2, 51% more powerful than the original, and it weighs less than half of what Raptor 1 weighed. with its mounting hardware. But here's the really wild part. Raptor 3 doesn't need a heat shield. Previous Raptor engines had external plumbing, gas generators, and fire suppression systems, all of which needed heat shields to survive the inferno of launch and re-entry. Raptor 3 internalized all of that. It runs so clean, so self-contained, that the external mess simply doesn't exist anymore. Elon Musk called it truly a work of art, and he's not wrong. Booster 19 carries 33 of these engines, the combined liftoff thrust. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 9,000 tons force. That's the kind of number that doesn't feel real until you're standing on a beach in South Texas watching the horizon turn white. The new flight path, why they're going south. One of the less flashy but genuinely important changes for Flight 12 is the trajectory. Previously, Starship flew on a trajectory over the Gulf of Mexico heading east. For Flight 12, SpaceX has received FAA approval for a revised southerly trajectory over the Gulf of Mexico, then the Caribbean Sea. The reason is sensible. If something goes wrong with the ship, as happened on Flights 9, 10, and others, debris needs to land somewhere that isn't densely populated or heavily trafficked. The Caribbean path keeps any unplanned fireworks largely over open water. The window runs from May 12th through May 18th. Daily opportunities open around 5:30 p.m. Central Time and last about 2 hours. The FCC has already granted a comms license covering through October 2026, so regulatory approval isn't the bottleneck here. The mission profile is suborbital, with both the booster and the ship targeting splashdown in the Indian Ocean. No booster catch attempt is planned for this flight. SpaceX is deliberately stepping back in that regard. Flight 12 is about validating the new vehicle, not pushing for the theatrical highlights, which, honestly, good call. Prove the rocket works first, then catch it with giant arms again. This is not a controversial stance. Why this actually matters, the Artemis connection. And here's where we have to stop joking for about 60 seconds because the stakes genuinely matter. Starship version 3 isn't just a cool rocket. It is quite literally the vehicle NASA is counting on to get humans back to the moon. The Artemis program, if you haven't been following, NASA sent 4 astronauts on a lunar flyby in April 2026, Artemis 2. That was historic. The first crewed flight beyond low Earth orbit since Apollo 17 in 1972. The actual first crewed moon landing has been pushed to Artemis 4, currently targeting 2028. And what's the lunar lander for both of those missions? SpaceX's Starship HLS, the Human Landing System variant. For Starship HLS to work, it needs to prove it can fly reliably. It needs to demonstrate in space propellant transfer. It needs to be human rated by NASA. And all of that development depends on flights like this one, proving the V3 architecture works, proving the engines work, proving the vehicle can handle the rigors of real spaceflight before you put astronauts inside a version of it and aim it at the moon. The road to the pad and the speed bumps along the way. Now, getting here was not a smooth process. SpaceX never has smooth processes. That would be boring and, frankly, terrible for our view count. First, Booster 18, the original first V3 booster, was destroyed during nitrogen pressurization testing, not during a fire test, not during an engine test, during a pressure test with no reactive propellants. It just ruptured. SpaceX, unfazed, moved on to Booster 19. Booster 19 then attempted its first static fire, a 10-engine test. It aborted due to a ground support equipment issue. They tried again. A 33-engine full static fire cut off at barely 2 seconds because a sensor faulted. Ship 39 did better. Its full duration static fire on April 14th was the first successful full static fire of any V3 upper stage. So the ship cleared its exam. The booster is still studying for its retakes. And just days ago, literally days before this video, the new Orbital Launch Pad 2 had its own little incident. During a high volume deluge test, one of the Methalox gas generators that supplies high pressure nitrogen for the deluge system exploded. Roof panels went flying. The internet collectively went, upon further review, what was that? The good news, no major structural damage to the pad or the flame trench. It was isolated to the gas generator and some overhead cover, which, to be fair, is extremely on brand for Starship. The first and second flights were separated by 212 days. If Flight 12 launches even by late May, that'd only be around 220 days since Flight 11, practically lightning speed by Starship's historical standards. So yes, May 12th is the target. But in the SpaceX universe, target is a polite word for aspiration that the universe will conspire against. So yes, it's a test flight, but it's a test flight that threads through every major human spaceflight ambition of the next decade. Will it launch on May 12th? Maybe. The pad just had an explosion. So maybe not May 12th. Will it work perfectly? Almost certainly not. But will it matter? Absolutely, without question. Let's just hope everything goes absolutely perfect.